Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from around the world, talking with makers from around the world. Here's Jamie Page, Steve Twidell, Chris Cute, and now your host, Richard Morley.
Shall I start again then?
Yeah, start again.
Yeah, start again.
Hello! Hello, take two. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, and wherever you're listening. Joined with me, as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
How you doing?
Mr. Steve Twidell.
Hello.
And Jamie Page.
You know, Richard has not insulted me for a long, long time, and he used to do that every week. So, Richard,
not
can
in
you
front
insult
of
me,
you.
please?
Not in front of you, he hasn't.
Do you know why I've stopped doing that, Jamie? Because I actually had
you
to.
like me now?
No, it's because I actually
because
had
I've
to
got
spend...
bags of M&Ms for you.
Well, that was, yes, the M&Ms does go a long way to do that. So, my best friend, Jamie Page.
Hello.
So we're going to start this off on a lie. Okay, all right, here we go.
No, Jamie has got me M&Ms, he said, and so therefore he is my best friend. Anyway,
He's a good
as
rapper.
always, I'm going to go and mention a few people that are in the live chat this week because we've got quite a few live listeners, and they are, drum roll please, Andy Pugh, Anna Bees from Anna Bee Workshop, Wave Cycles, Maggie Billiard, Wayne the Wood Turner. I'm sure I saw Joe from Joe Bow Boutique, Dan Brent, Andy Heel, Sockamo Woodwork, and lots of other people. If I didn't mention you, you probably didn't say enough in the chat.
You didn't
but
mention
welcome anyway.
Steve, and Steve.
Do you know what? I didn't. No, it's,
I know, there's
SK
Steve.
Crafts. I still haven't seen any Steve. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But welcome to all of you. There's 25 people watching apparently. Not necessarily all of them. Anyway, welcome. So, as always, this evening's podcast is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, Wood Turner's Abrasive Paste, our good friend Chad over at Mancrafting, who's still giving away one of his Mancrafting mugs each month, I believe it is. But I might be wrong on that. I probably am. Jamie will be able to tell you. And also Pam over at Highland Boxes, who's giving away her... They really are awesome. I don't just say that. They really are awesome hybrid blanks that she makes in her little workshop. So that's that. And Chris, do we have any... Oh, hang on. No, just roll it up a bit. Because if you want to find out more about our sponsors, which you probably do, because I managed to completely mess that up, you can head on over to our website, makersinternationalpodcast.com/forward-thinking sponsors, and Jamie puts all the information on there and so all the links and stuff where you can find out about those good, kind-hearted people. Mad.
So professional. Well done, Richard.
If we wanted professional, we wouldn't be here, the four of us, that's for sure. Anyway, Chris, do we have any random list of questions for the week?
Yeah, I've got two. First one is from me. Could we just record the intro from now on? so we have it done properly in one take, and then we could just pick it up and screw it up from there, or just, or do you like, well, never mind. All right.
Do you know what? I'm actually all for that.
we actually, we do have a random listener question, and let's underline and highlight and italicize the word random, because every now and then when I go out and ask people, I said, all right, we're doing the podcast this week. I need some questions. I don't care what you ask us, whatever question you have, just throw it out there. Well, I got one of those whatever kind of questions. And it was from Joffrey Smith, and Joffrey just want the question he asked. He said, toilet paper or bidet? I guess he's leaving it up to you guys. That's the question. I mean, hey, it's what you get when you say, hey, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So
yeah, you've really got to reword that question out to people, Chris, I think. You should be more popular and get more of a pool of people that actually want to ask us vaguely sensible questions. But that's probably not going to happen after our little intro, is it?
Oh, yeah, that would require us to be professional. But I mean, hey, he asked the question. I promise if they ask him, I'll throw them out there. I mean, I don't care. So I'm going to say both, because even with the bidet, you still gotta, you gotta dry yourself, don't you?
I'm going to say Jeffrey's sticker.
Jeffrey, there you go.
Have you seen the size of the thing?
No.
Blooming heck. And speaking of stickers, before we move on to the next question, this one's brought to you in association with Mrs. Wartooth Designs. Now, this is brilliant. Now, as you can see, I've got my sticker board behind me if you're over on the YouTube, and it's going to have been placed more perfect because, look,
Right above my head. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate
Lovely
it.
jubbly.
Yeah.
For those of you listening after the event on the published version on some kind of audio based supplement, be grateful.
Yeah.
Just call me Richard Cranium. There you go.
Yeah. Being an ex plumbing and heating engineer and having fitted many bidets, I use toilet paper.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near posh enough to have a bidet or whatever, however you wish to pronounce it.
A bathroom water fountain.
Yeah, you know, no. So that's a fairly short answer from me.
Jamie, we don't want to know, but we already told us. You said Jeffrey Sticker. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about as interesting as the questions you got this week, guys. Sorry.
Come on, guys, give us better questions than that one, please.
Yeah, please send them to us over on Facebook at Makers International Podcast on the Facebook page. We could really use some quality questions.
All answers to templeboyturnings@gmail.com.
Yep, that's perfect with me.
Wow.
Well, it can only get better from here, guys.
There's nowhere else to go but up.
Thanks for the promotion, JP.
It's all right.
What actually how are we going to save this? Because what are we talking about today? Because this is kind of, I think, was it sort of your initiative, Steve?
Yes, funny enough, it's talking about not going mad.
It was about, yeah, and I think we all, yes, it was Steve's original idea to talk about this, but it incorporates, I think, a lot of different things because there's a lot of different mentalities that go into what we're talking about. We're talking about getting out in your shop and using your shop as kind of and I guess the title pretty much says it all. Using your shop as sort of a maker therapy, giving your head a break. And a lot of people use their shops for purely that. They don't do YouTube videos. They just need to get away from the world and go out in their shop and close the doors and shut the world out, kind of thing. So I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about today. And we have a good sized chat today too. So people use their shops occasionally or often or all the time about that, then chime in and let us know, and we'd be happy to share whatever stories you have as well. Well, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a touchy subject, I know, but I've always been open with the fact that I suffer from depression. I have done for a long time, and my therapy sometimes, not all the time, is both getting out in my shop and being able to shut the world away, as you said, Chris, but also the friends and people that I have across social media. And I mean, I'm in rural Ireland. I don't have many friends per se. And before you say anything, Richard, shut up. I don't have I don't have many actual friends that live around me that I can go out drinking or go out doing whatever you do with friends. So my friends are the people on social media. So that's why I would be quite prevalent on social media. That's how I get my kicks across social media and YouTube and my workshop. It's brought me out of a lot of dark spaces in the past, but hobbies have always been there for me. Do you know, whether it's just picking up a pencil and scribbling and drawing something, and even just scribbling a big dark mass on the page can help somebody get it out of their head. And I just thought, I wonder, am I the only person? And I actually know the answer to that I'm not, because there's actually a lot of people have got in touch with me, not only personally, but through shows like this, and said, hey, no, I'm in exactly the same boat. But I just wondered how it affects different people in different ways and how it helps them as well.
Well, Steve, when you and I know you say it doesn't help all the time, because there are sometimes that it just it gets you don't want to get off the chair you're sitting on. I understand that, but when you get out in your shop and you're doing that kind of thing, and you because you're in one of those states, and does it just help you focus? Is it? I don't know enough about medical diagnoses for particular afflictions to properly say this, but as opposed to being, with your mind in several hundred different areas at once, does it help you focus on just one thing to either calm you, or because I don't know how that works with depression, Steve? I'm asking the question, and I'm doing it out of ignorance because I honestly don't know the answer.
I think the way it works for me is it makes my head busy. And that sounds really strange because my job, I'm very active, special needs kids, and I have a big family. I have a lot of kids at home. And so that probably is kind of a contradiction. You probably think, well, hold on, your head's probably just mad all the time. But when you've got a lot of noise in your life, sometimes the quiet times are desperately quiet. That sounds strange, but when it is quiet, it's scary quiet. And it gets you thinking about all the stuff that maybe necessarily you really should never think about, the stuff that you've put way back in the back of your head.
Oh, it opens that black door.
So it can open the black door into thoughts that you never really wanted to think about. I mean, I had a business that went down and left me in a lot of financial strain. I've had, losses in my life and all the general life stuff. I mean, a lot of people have had that, but each person deals with stuff like that themselves individually. And with me, I tend to kind of go screw it up like a ball of paper and throw it into the corner of my brain, and then that's forgotten about. And from talking to people that know what they're talking about, that's a bad thing to do. But until you get to talk to people like that, and until you get to know what kind of mind you've got when you become an adult and how you deal with things like that, you don't necessarily have the tools to be able to deal with stuff like that. So those ones that do screw them up into a ball and throw them in the waste bin in the back of their mind, sometimes a spark hits that waste bin and ignites all this emotion. And when it does come back, it's just like someone shuts the curtain on you.
Let me ask you.
You feel really, really dark thoughts. It's just not a nice place to go.
Let me ask you a question, and I guess unless you know the exact answer, it's probably an opinion. Do you think that men suffer with that exact thing more so than women do? Because men happen to suppress, and I guess I'm talking about more of an emotional thing, because men tend to, on average, suppress outward emotions and try to hold them in. Because from a very young age, we're taught, boys don't cry, you don't do that kind of stuff. You're a man, suck it up. And then so we never outwardly show it. And women are much more mentally healthy that way because they do let their emotions out and they let them go. But guys tend to keep that stress in. And sometimes the smallest thing can tick off those bent up emotions that you've suppressed for so long, and then they all come out at once, and they come out in very bad ways sometimes too. And I didn't know if that was kind of the door that you were talking about, or if it was something totally different.
I think with women, and I've got friends that suffer with similar conditions that are women. I think the only difference I've noticed is that women are selective with how much information they give, and sometimes that's a bad thing because they might let a certain emotion out and give a reason why they're feeling like that, but not necessarily for the reason they are trying to put across. So they then get a response to what they've let out, and if it's not the correct response, they have a very, very strong reaction to what they get back in feedback. So they can be very confrontive about how they're trying to deal with their thoughts. So that's why I find there's a lot of arguments. I
didn't want to pigeonhole into a gender thing either. But it's not. It was a question I thought was worth asking. But basically, the answer is no. Both. It's not gender related whatsoever. It just may happen for different reasons.
Depression's depression, and every person deals with it differently.
There was a comment out in the chat from Fix It Up, Make It New, and they said what medical science says is that 4 times more women have mental health issues than men.
Okay. Wow.
So there you go.
I told you I didn't know a damn thing. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in those statistics, though, I think I've read similar statistics. I think in those statistics, though, postnatal and prenatal depression.
Yeah, I guess childbirth as
and
well.
a lot of that is, that's a big thing for women, you know, and a horrible thing to go through too. It's a very, very nasty thing to
We
go
should
through.
actually have had a woman on to talk about this with us today. That way, we could get it firsthand.
Well, I mean, that can happen in the future. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with the statistics, though, is it all basically the reliability of any statistic basically hinges on the fact that A, you've asked the right people, and B, those people have answered honestly. And potentially, when you're talking about a sort of a fairly sensitive issue, you might not get the straight or the honest answer. I mean, the classic one is, you know, everybody on Instagram, you know, is killing Instagram, and then, you know, you ask any self-employed tradesman, and that, I'm really busy, got booked up for till next July. Right. Oh yeah, same here. Next August, me. Yeah. Oh no, I did another one yesterday. It's like it almost kind of turns into that sort of like who's swinging the bigger stick. And I'm not saying that people are just trying to outdo each other. I'm just, you know, just sometimes you have to temper the statistics or the facts with what's actually in front of you. Do you see what I mean?
That's what a couple of other people, Gibb and Dave the Wood Barber, was saying just out in the chat about the statistics. Gibb was saying many men won't admit to things like that, and Dave was saying a lot of men won't like to admit it and cover how tough they are, like being the alpha male, for argument's sake.
Yeah, I was just saying, but I think the general point to this is that. And to some degree, because I mean, if you take it and put it to direct psychology, there's no such thing as sanity. And so therefore, there's no such thing as insanity. There's just degrees of what we consider the norm. And for the fact that somebody may suffer from this, and maybe not habitually, maybe it's once a year, maybe it's once every 5 years, but, you know, that door opens on them, you know, at one point in time. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And it's not because what can even add to it is the fact that they're trying to hide it, and because they think they'll be looked down upon. And I can't speak for anybody else except myself, but I would never look down on somebody who was going through that kind of an issue, because I don't personally suffer as much as other people do, but I can kind of relate it to what we're talking about today as far as being able to use my shop time as therapy, because for a long time in my life, I did exactly that. That's why I learned as much as I learned from books and things of that nature, because it was a way for me to close my world out, and it was a way for me to engage my brain in a totally different way that I didn't have to worry about pressures and nothing. It was just, if I want to do this, I do it, and if I don't, I don't. No worries. And I really needed that in my life for almost 20 years. That's how I dealt with working in my shop.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, up until probably about 4 years ago, people were afraid to even mention that they were having problems, because it's not. It was from the stigma, but also the title that depression has. People generally think that if you're depressed, you're walking around with your bottom lip down, your head down, and you're, oh, I hate life. I don't want to be here. I think that everybody sucks. I suck. And just the world in general sucks. They just think that that's depression. That's not depression. There are so many different variations of depression. I have at least 4 different types of depression, the way it hits me. I can be angry and aggressive for the slightest stupid, pointless things. Now, I wouldn't actually be physically aggressive, but verbally aggressive. If I'm in a certain headspace that just isn't working for me, and someone says the wrong thing, they're going to get a barrage of abuse come spewing out my mouth that I don't even know what I'm saying, and I generally don't mean what I'm saying. I've upset people by saying stuff to them, and I don't even remember what I said. Gotcha. Because it just goes boom, and it's just an explosion. It's temper, and then you'll get people turning around and say, "Oh, you need anger management." And when you see angry people, more times than not, they're not angry because they want to be, or it's because of frustration, of not understanding what's going on in their head. I'm angry because I know I need help, but I don't know who to approach or how to approach someone. I've already upset so many people in my life. Who am I going to turn around to?
Right.
Yeah.
There is then the depression where you just shut the door, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. You know, I've done that. I've shut the bedroom door and I've stayed in my bed and I didn't want to talk to anybody.
Mhm.
You know, you get that kind of thing. But
That's
then
that's being withdrawn. Yeah.
my main depression is I function perfectly. I sit here and I'll talk to you lot perfectly. I'll go to work and I'll do my job 110% to my best of my ability. I'll do over hours without pay. I'll work with the kids. I love the kids I work with. I'll work with the staff. I'll get home and I cannot function as a father or as a husband. I get home and I've put so much energy into pretending that I'm okay elsewhere that when I get home, I relax and think, well, these don't mind if I'm an absolute ass because they're used to it.
Yeah.
So are you effectively is that your sort of almost coping mechanism at work when you're mega busy and doing stuff? You're just kind of shutting the world out by
just put everything 100% into what I'm doing. But then when I get home, I could have spent, this is just a scenario, I could have spent all day with an autistic boy going in my ear for 6 hours of the day, saying stuff in my ear, kicking me, biting me, spitting me, tearing up every bit of his work, trying to get him to do his work, not listening, and I can tolerate it, not a problem. I can then go home and my daughter would say, can you help me with my homework? I say, yeah, no problem. And she doesn't get something. And rather than sitting there like I would with the autistic child, I get angry and I say, why don't you get this? You should do this. God, you're not one of the kids that I'm working with. This is on a bad day. I'm not saying this is how I am with my kids all the time. I'm just being honest with people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an asshole dad. But what I'm saying is that when I'm in that mindset and that mind frame where I just don't know how to deal with how I'm feeling, it's better now because I know that that's why I'm feeling, so I can go away and get myself out of that situation. But before I knew what was happening with me, I'd get angry over the most stupid things and it wouldn't be that person's fault. It's just because I've worked so hard up until that point and trying to hide the fact that I'm feeling that way, and I relax and then all of a sudden I've got to start doing it again. You just get this big implosion.
It's that sounds like a lot of people that and I know several people that were like this. They were the happiest, most jovial. You think that their life is absolutely wonderful because when you're out, they're happy, they're kidding around, they're the happiest people in the world. But what you don't know is when they go home and they're by themselves.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And there's nobody else around to either perform for, and they're stuck with their own thoughts, that it gets really ugly. And you never know about it unless they say something. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't say enough, and they should, because there's nothing to be ashamed about for that.
I guess that's when the quiet times become really loud.
Yeah.
And the thing that's kind of the danger for looking from an outsider's perspective is, let's take, just a random, let's take John Smith, just a random person. John Smith's always happy, and he's the guy who's always the life and soul of the party. He's the one that's always completely attentive at work and mild-mannered. And then he goes home. Everyone just sees happy old John go home. Nobody knows what's happening at home. And then when something does happen, everyone's like, well, John's all right. John's always happy. What do you mean John's unhappy? He's John. He's always happy. He can cope with anything. It's a weird perspective from an outsider to be able to understand. They see this like person that's always coping, that's always doing well, to suddenly find out that they're suddenly not doing well. And I think when you take that example and you look at it from John Smith's point of view, because he's always the happy person that's coping, it makes it even harder for John Smith to then go, actually, I'm not okay, because people see only the happy side. It's almost like a vicious circle, which makes everything a lot harder.
Yeah, I mean, how many people have heard that a neighbour down the road has unfortunately taken their own life, and then you hear everybody around going, geez, he seems so happy all the time. Why would he do such a thing?
Yeah.
People don't just decide one day, do you know what, I'm checking out.
To up and off themselves.
They just don't do it overnight. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, maybe if a particular thing happens a half hour beforehand where it's so tragic that they can't mentally process it and their gut reaction is to do that, then I can understand that. But most people, 99% of the people, do not decide to check out 2 minutes before they do it.
No, it's something they've been thinking about doing for years.
They've got to the point where even if they've tried to talk to someone, they've got the wrong feedback. They've been judged. They've heard being talked about. I've had all that. I've had people talking about me behind my back. When I've had a particularly miserable day at work, I've actually walked into the staff room and heard, and this isn't in the job I'm in at the moment, just in case anybody's watching. In the past jobs, I've walked into the staff room and I've heard people talking about me. What's wrong with that miserable fecker?
Yeah.
Do you know? And that's the worst thing you can hear when you're at a low point. Do you know? Because you just want to turn around and go, well, they've just literally just told me what I was thinking about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Do you know?
Yes,
So even if you do hear someone that's down, don't judge them. They're obviously bad-tempered, grumpy, in a bad mood. There's always a reason for why they are acting out the way they are. They're not necessarily an arsehole.
Sophie made a good point from Make It So in the chat a bit earlier on. She said a problem shared is a problem halved. And that is very, very true. So 100%. if there is anyone,
it is true. And
suffering out there, just really talk to it. Someone, one of us, anyone. You know.
Absolutely, and you know Steve, I can't comprehend. The closest I can come to having in my own personal issue was you know, you were talking about earlier about women who get, you know, that have the pre and post pregnancy depression that they can go through. And believe it or not, I guess maybe it doesn't happen with every guy, but maybe it does happen with every guy, and just some guys don't admit it. I'll freely admit it. I had a post my wife's pregnancy thing hit me, and I'll tell you why. Because birth is an incredible thing to witness, as you know, and just it's an amazing. I mean, there's no words for that. But it changes your priorities over freaking night. I mean, I was a single guy I was a married guy with my wife. My wife and I had been, you know, without children for almost 10 years when we were married. And then you have a kid and you see the birth of that child and you love that child so much. And I guarantee the next day I went into work, and this went on for a couple months. I went into work and I wanted to be anywhere else except work. I wanted to be home with my family. So my priorities changed, and then obviously my attitude changed towards people at work because I didn't want to be there. I was pissed off, and people were associating, going, "Well, it's because he has a kid now. They don't want to be there." And you know what? They were absolutely right. But how I dealt with that, all that pressure, that stigma, that anger that I worked up throughout the day, is I went home to where you would think I wanted to be because I wanted to be with my family, and I would go out in my shop and close them off. I never spent the time. For like 3 months. I had to work myself through this, and it wasn't an easy thing to work yourself through. And it wasn't until I finally sat down and talked to my wife about it that I managed to get over it. That's how I used my shop in one instance to get over life, because I so much didn't want to have to go back to work. I wanted to be with my family, blah, blah, blah. And I treated everybody at work horribly. And then when I got home and you would think I'm finally where I want to be, I was so pissed off and angry and stressed out about the day I had just had. I went out my shop and closed the door and I shut my family out. So it was solving absolutely nothing. And it wasn't until I actually broke down and talked to somebody about it that I was able to figure it out. Not easy to do.
Yep.
I felt like I was lost. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that the main thing that, if anybody can take anything from this show and talking about stuff like this, is, and I've learned it over the years, is that every day, if you smile at as many people as you can possibly smile at, and if you can ask as many people as possible, how are you? How's your day? Do you know? If you can talk to people and say, you're all right, you seem a bit down. If you ever want to talk, we'll go for coffee. But don't be afraid to approach people and ask them if they're okay. Because that split second after you ask them that, their eyes are going to tell you everything.
Yeah.
It's all in the expression. They could say, yeah, I'm fine. But their eyes, it's going to say, I could really do with a talk. And then don't be afraid to push it once. And I would only say once. I don't hound someone, but don't be afraid to push it that once, because that once has helped me in the past, where someone has said, hold on, Steve, come on, let's go for a coffee. And it's that moment when I've said, all right, yeah, I could really do a talk now, if I'm honest. You know, a lot of people would offer friendship because it's it may be the right thing to do, but you've got to really mean it. You have really got to mean.
Yeah, you've got
to taking that half an hour out of your life and going and chatting to them. You don't have to chat about how they're feeling. Just go and chat about anything, because they could. If I'm honest, the main reason why I do live shows is purely for that reason. Because I'll go home and I think I need to talk to someone, and the feedback I get then from the chat puts me in a whole different mood and puts me in a different lathe. Even if I completely mess something up on the lathe or faff it up, it puts me into a mood, because I know that there are people there that want to talk to me just because I've come live. Do you know?
There's another thing with the lives as well. I totally agree with that, because I've done quite a few lives over the end of last year, beginning of this year, and it kind of builds your own confidence in so much as it doesn't matter if you, like you say, messing something up on the thing, but also those people that watch you actually live, and I think to a certain degree the people that watch afterwards are the people that follow you, that actually want to watch you. They're not the random people that kind of dip in, and they're not the people that just sort of stumble upon you per se. They're the people that are generally, I mean, I know when I do live shows, pretty much there's always the same few people that are constantly watching. And presumably, Steve, you could probably write on a bit of paper at least half of the people that are in watching you live before you go live, because you go, oh, no, that person will be there, that person. And as a result of that, I think I'll get to the point eventually. As a result of that, the comments that you get aren't the, oh, I don't like the way you did that. Oh, why didn't you do it that way? Oh, you should have done it the other way. Oh, I could do that as well if I had all those tools. They're not. They're people that are genuinely interested, who genuinely get what you're doing, and everything's. It's kind of it kind of makes you feel a bit safe. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's like having your mates around in the front room and making something. That's literally what the lives are all about. And I even said that to someone I was in a hangout with earlier. You know, it's literally like inviting your mates around to your workshop, having a bit of banter, and maybe make something while you're doing it. And any place where you can just pick up a phone and say, I want 20 people to come and chat to me, is a good place.
Oh yeah.
And that's what a live is. That's what a live is. It's instant friendship and it's instant therapy. I've had a shit day, I need a laugh, and I can guarantee, even if there's only one person watching me, I'm going to feel better after that live show.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, and for everyone actually. So we're kind of in agreement that doing the live shows is a good way to get back to a sort of a happy place, or help us stay in a happy place, and that making generally is a good thing to help us in a happy place. And then Chris has mentioned it. What if we all use making as kind of a therapy? And I think a lot of people in the chat have sort of alluded to the fact that making helps them. What do you do when, you know, because Kat actually specifically asked this in the chat, what do you do when your mojo just ups and leaves you? Because I get this, not all the time, but I've probably this year happened maybe 3 or 4 times. You go out into the workshop, you walk in the door, and you're just like, I can't be bothered. But for whatever reason, it might be in a mess, it might just be a bit cold, it might be just nothing at all. It could be absolute perfect
blown away,
just for not there.
Well, I mean, blown away
for whatever reason. Has anyone ever just walked into their workshop and gone, do you know what? I can't be bothered. I used to. Yeah,
I've done that a couple of times. Mainly just for the reason that it's cold. To be honest, no other reason.
So what do you do in those situations then?
I normally end up going inside and sitting on a computer and going sit and mess around with the community some way or another. It always revert back to the community one way or another.
That's interesting.
It's kind of the same for me, Richard, because that happened to me after Christmas. Because I got, to be quite frank, I burned myself out in my shop because of all of the things I had to make at Christmas. I was just ready to close the door. I had more than my fill of my shop, and I've just now started to get back out there. But like Jamie said, a lot of that had to do with the temperature in my shop. I mean, it just wasn't pleasant to be out there. I mean, I have spent winters in my shop in the past several years putting videos out because I was inspired to do so. This year, I just wasn't. But outside of that, I never had a problem with my mojo going away because it was always something when I was working. Let me put it to when I was working, because my job was very, very stressful, and it was always, I never had a problem, even if I went out there and glued 2 pieces of wood together just for the sake of gluing 2 pieces of wood together. But I wasn't trying to do videos, or I wasn't trying to impress anybody. I was using that time in my shop as therapy. I was honestly going out there because I needed to calm the hell down from the week I just had. Otherwise, I was going to be unbearable to be around for my wife and my son, and I needed that time. So I never had a problem as far as a desire to not go out in my shop while I was working. Since I've been retired, this past winter has been the first time where I felt like I didn't feel like doing anything. And I got into all kinds of other different things that didn't require me to go out in my shop. I mean, I do, and people may not know this, I do a lot of cooking. So I spent a lot of time in the kitchen, which is a form of making, I guess, but it's a different type, and I get to eat what I'm doing. So I would make, spent the last 3 months making really nice dinners for my wife when she got home, and she and I would make them. So I moved it into a different direction, I guess is what I'm saying. And so I'm just now getting back to my wood shop, and hopefully I'll have a video out sometime either this week or next. So it's tough. It's a personal thing. How you get your own mojo back is really
a cooking video.
Is really a question you have to ask the person in the mirror. Because I don't think there's nothing that you or I or anybody else could say that would be the fix for everybody. There's no answer. It's an individual thing. You either have it or you don't.
I mean, Chris the Blind, sorry, Richard. Chris the Blind Wood Turner said, how do our workshops and projects change our lives for the better? That's kind of in this kind of category that we're talking about. So I suppose it's a good question. Do you know, I mean,
it depends on what's going to make you happy, or what sort of itch you have that you need to scratch today.
Well,
if the itch you need to scratch today is to make something totally cool to share with other people, then that's the itch you need to scratch. If it's just, I need to go out there and do something, if it screws up, I don't care, that still makes you happy, then that's the itch that you need to scratch today. It really depends on what your motivation is to get out there and make you happy. Every project that I do, whether I screw it up or I finish it, makes me happy. I mean, I'm never... Yeah. But there's a difference between happy and proud. Okay, let's be clear here. I'm happy with everything. I'm not necessarily proud of much. So, I mean, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few times when I've wanted to go out there to do some wood turning and not gotten as far as the scroll saw. And I thought, I want to do some scroll sawing instead, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I know Richard's feelings on the scroll saw. So I won't talk too much about it, but the scroll saw, if you've got patience, it is a great form of therapy, whether you like it or not, because you're on there for such a long time. You could just put your headphones or ISO tunes or whatever you use to listen to music on, and you just sit back and scroll away.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I totally agree with you, Jamie. I absolutely agree with you. Just the little things that you do like bazillion hour artwork, massive 8x4 sheet things. I do anything bigger than a coaster, and I'm not really interested. If it's got more than half a dozen cuts in it, not really interested, just purely because I haven't got the patience for it. But I totally get what you mean. Even like the Mickey Mouse things that I did, not very big, not particularly long, but for the length of time you're doing it, it is like a different place, a different sort of, you totally zone out. You totally zone out, and you just watch the picture.
I mean, it takes so much concentration on looking where the blade. I mean, you get, say, 20 hours into a project, all of a sudden you make that one wrong move, and the whole thing's completely gone tits up. That's the last thing you want.
I think there's one word that relates to shop therapy, and and that's achievement.
Yeah.
And I don't mean
I would agree with that.
I've achieved to make this beautiful
Right.
item from this log. I mean, I have achieved by putting on my work clothes.
Yep.
I have achieved by opening the door of my workshop and stepping into it. I've achieved by sweeping and cleaning it up. And the way I look at it now, I used to have them moments where I'd walk into the workshop more times than not, where I'd walk into the workshop and go, I'm just not in the right headspace. I'm going to cut my fingers off.
Yep.
And shut the door and turn around, walked in and been a complete arse to my family because I made that decision not to achieve just going in and changing the blade in my saw and walking back out again. Had I have done that, I would have been in a completely different mindset going back into the house. I would have done something. I would have had a reason for opening that door and walking into the shop. So even if you do, what I would say is if you're the sort of person that has that moment of walking into a workshop, push yourself to just pick up a brush and clean the counter.
You know, I was going to say that. Yeah. Exactly.
More times than not, sweeping that little bit of dirt off the counter, you're going to see a blade that maybe you should have sharpened. And you'll go, do you know what? I might just do that. I'm not making anything, but I'm going to need that the next time I do get in the mood for doing it. And you sharpen the blade and you put it up on the shelf and you see something next to it. And there's a chain reaction. And before you know it, 3 hours in, you're in the workshop and you've ended up with so many small bits that you needed to do. And you've got this huge feeling of achievement. The fact that, oh, wow,
Yep.
That's why I came in here. I don't have to make something.
You know what? I'm gonna make probably a bad reference here, but it's does anybody here have a lawn that they need to mow? Like during the summer, you have to mow your yard.
I wish it was a lawn. Mine's a field.
Anyway, when I lived in Florida, the grass grows like I'm talking weeds. If I don't, once a week you have to mow your lawn, otherwise it's 6 inches high. And you dread doing it. You don't want to go out and do it. It sucks. But you go out and do it. It's monotonous, blah, blah, blah. But when you're done, man, your grass really looks good. And I take the same analogy to my shop. Because right now, if I walk out in my shop, and I can guarantee this is probably a lot of what my problem
is. You've got lawn in your shop?
No, Jamie, shut the hell up. I'm trying to make a point.
He's got 2 tennis courts if you look closely.
If I walk out in my shop right now, my shop is an utter disaster. It's a mess. If you like do what Steve says, go out in your shop, even if you're not making something, clean your damn shop up. Make things, put them away, make it as pristine as you would like it to be, and I guarantee the next time you walk out there, it's going to be much more inviting to work in.
Yeah.
A disorganized shop is not Absolutely. A very compelling shop to walk into. So clean your shop. Worst case scenario, clean your shop.
Yeah, change that light bulb that's been blinking. Change. Fix the wonky foot on the bottom of the lathe stand that's been annoying you, that every time you use it you think, I must fix that, but you get into making a project and never fix it. Put the front back on the drawer that fell off. Just little simple things, and they're the things that are going to get you into the right headspace the next time, as you say, you walk into that shop. Make a hippie noodle step, things like that.
Yeah. Got a step. Cat, tell him, Cat.
I should dangle them peanut butter M&Ms in front of him and say, "Noodle step, Richard." Make a little step and dangle them over his nose.
That's the carrot before the horse, right there.
Yeah, there you go. Carrot before the arse. I
mean, we can only. I think, as far as this goes, we can only offer our ideas and maybe tell stories about things that have worked for us in the past. But if you're really struggling and you really are needing that kind of therapy time, then go talk to somebody who understands you and knows you, and go from there. I mean, because trying to work through it on your own is difficult, if sometimes, depending on the situation, maybe even impossible. So you have to feel comfortable about going to talk to a good friend, at least to begin with. Tell them what you go through.
I wouldn't agree with that. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Talk to a stranger too. Don't be afraid to. If you're in a restaurant or a cafe and there's a guy sitting next to you, get talking to him, because I guarantee you're going to have something in common with him, and you're going to start talking to him, and you might even make a friend. If he's an arsehole, he's going to make you feel better because you're not as much of an arsehole as he is.
There you go.
Seriously, That's helped me before as well. I've walked into a cafe in a really bad mood, in a place where I don't want to be. I've ordered a coffee. I've sat down and started talking to people, and I thought, "You twat."
At least I'm
My
not that
my life is way better than yours because I would actually talk to someone if they sat down and talked to me. It sounds stupid, but it's reverse psychology. It helps. Anything that can help you get out of the space that you're in is
Yeah.
a good thing.
Well, I mean, there's people out there that have problems with, I mean, actually talking with
Social
people.
anxiety. There's social anxiety. Yes.
Yeah,
I get that.
there is, and I'm because I'm very much an introvert, and you guys wouldn't believe me, but I am. If you get me in a room full of people that I don't know, and I'm going to be in the corner not saying a word, I'm just not that outgoing. Hey, how are you? How you doing? My name's Chris. What you doing? That's not me.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm just like I'm.
Just ask Dave. You just ignore people. That's right.
But if you have that kind of social anxiety, most chances. That's why I'm saying chances are that if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then go talk to somebody you know, and maybe talk to a good friend. A good friend who is somebody who can call you an asshole and tell you've been a jerk and you're a stupid mofo, and you're still going to be friends afterwards. Get to that kind of in your face friend and go have a conversation with them, because they're going to tell it to you straight. They're not going to hide anything from you.
Yeah,
it's interesting actually, because people bring up like the social anxiety side of it, and particularly after what Steve was saying, because anyone that went to Makers last year, I was genuinely surprised at bearing in mind the kind of people that went there, for the most part, that I noticed at least, were YouTubers, either of all spectrums in terms of size of channels and all the rest of it, and notoriety rather than anything else. The amount of people that were self-confessed socially anxious people, it genuinely surprised me when I watch you all the time on YouTube, yet you're saying that you're like uncomfortable around people, yet you've got hundreds of thousands of people watch you every day or every week.
But they're not in the same room.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's when you explain it, you're like, oh yeah, because you're kind of on your own, aren't you? Really, with a camera, that actually makes sense. But when you forget that, you're like, what do you mean? You're like, you're always talking to people. You're like, I see you. I know you. I feel like I know you. And that top that you wear every other video with the little tear on the corner, and to that point, people know us and we know people. Intimate things, actually. Quite scarily when you think about it and break it down, but then for that person to go, no, not like in the same room.
It's called. Do you know what that's called? It's called Tinder syndrome.
But then,
how about that with a Reddit crowd
in a room? That they go into a room, but then everyone's like that. Everyone's really awkward, or not everyone's really awkward, but a lot of people are more than you expect. Yeah, it's kind of doubly worse, because if you go somewhere like that and nobody knows you, you're just a person in the side of the room that nobody knows and nobody really probably pays attention to. But if you're somebody that all these strangers recognize and you're socially, it just is like literally throwing a match on that tinderbox syndrome. It's a potential powder cake, isn't it, for insecurity?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, and it's not an easy thing, and I don't think we could actually. I mean, we've done it somewhat of a justice today, but with the limited amount of time that we have, this show, and as Steve, I'm sure we could do another episode on this, and perhaps we should. I mean, to be quite honest with you, maybe we should carry this on into another week. I mean, I know we've got a few things on tap for next week, but I think next week's topic may lend well to continue this conversation, because I think a lot of what we're talking about today can be carried over.
Absolutely.
I think we could probably talk all week until next week on this topic, to be perfectly honest, Chris. It's one of those.
It's just a different way of people, how they handle things and how they go about doing it. It's sad, but that doesn't have to be, because all people really need to know, and at least as far as I'm concerned, is they don't. There's no reason for you to be alone. You got to, especially in this community. This community is so caring and so loving. There are hundreds of people that would be willing to come and sit next to you if they could, right now, if you need it.
100%. Yep, 100%. Dave the Wood Barber wants someone to organise a bathroom finishing party with him. If they can. So if there's any
Julia
makers,
Martinez, that's who you want to contact.
If there's any makers that live near Dave the Barber, maybe get together, sort out a day when you can all head round his house and help him finish his bathroom.
Slap some tile on the wall. Do it.
You want to contact Julian Martinez once it's done?
Yeah, no. Unless you want shower beers, then yeah, go ahead. Anyway, I guess it's going to have to wrap it up for this week. We're kind of limited on time, guys. But Steve, thanks for the topic. I mean, interesting conversation, and I know let's move forward on this maybe next week.
100%. And just before we do finish on the topic, anybody that ever wants to chat about anything, get in touch with me across any of my social medias. I'm always there to talk.
Bingo. Awesome. Shout outs. Who's got them? Who wants to give one? Who's ready to go?
I got one. Yeah.
Go.
Australian dude. Drop Bear Woodwork. He's just come back on the YouTubes after a break. I love watching this guy. He is a complete and utter loony. He used to be, I think the channel used to be called The Pipe Nutter, and he changed it to Drop Bear Woodworks.
Okay.
But what he does is he restores pipes that you smoke. And he makes pipes and stuff like really good wood turner. He makes all kinds of smoking pipes, but he also has a segment, or he used to. I'm not sure if he's going to get back to doing it now. He does a segment where he does reviews on tobaccos and stuff like that. I'm not a smoker at all, but to listen to his reviews, some of them will literally only be like 15 seconds long, the videos, and he'll go, nah, don't bother, and that'll be it. That'll be the video. He'll go puff puff puff, nah, shit, and that'll be it. But he's a funny dude. Drop Bear Woodworks, head over, really nice guy. Sometimes he'll do kind of he'll have someone in the background on a Hangout Live while he's shooting a video, and he'll go, hold on a minute, guys. And he'll be chatting away to someone on a Hangout, and he's just wacky, but he's a really good dude to watch. So Drop Bear Woodworks, head over and follow him. Very funny dude. Give him some love. Tell him I sent you.
And Jamie, I apologize. I skipped you. Do you have your novel this week, or do you not?
Yeah, I've got
Jamie's Whinge.
Right, so I just want to announce something totally unrelated to the podcast.
Oh.
Julian Martinez and myself have set up a group for Scroll Sawers on Facebook called Team Scroll Saw.
Wait a minute. Is this your way of maybe getting a head start on Steve over the Team Scroll Saw?
Funny enough, I mentioned that, and he said no.
Jamie, look at Jamie, Mr. Innocent over there. Going, oh no, it has nothing to do with
Nope.
Okay. I don't believe you, but go ahead.
Reason being is every time someone tries selling patterns or selling their final pieces on a Facebook group, they end up getting booted out or whatever. So now we're going to give them a place where they can do it, and they can also trade their patterns or share their ideas and things like that. So the rules are very limited. There's only a couple of rules, and that's basically no bullying, no racism, and no politics. That's basically it. You follow them rules and you're fine. But you've got to use a scroll saw. If you use, cats in there.
Sometimes. So can I post pictures of router bits on there? If you've got no.
No, you can't.
Why? No. Is that against the rules?
Yes.
Is that considered bullying? Is it?
Can I be a member? Can I be a member because I own a scroll saw?
You got to use it regular.
But I'm hash. Oh yeah, I have to use it regularly.
Yeah.
Well, I put beer.
That's
how
controversial.
And that doesn't.
And why are you discriminating against the occasional recreational scroller?
What do you mean, regular scroll saw? You got at least once every 6 months.
That's not regular.
That doesn't mean use it as a shelf or a coaster.
I was gonna say, because I use mine as a coaster all the time. I was like, I guess. All right, Jamie, you got your point across. So we know it's the snob scroll saw elite that you want in your group. Go ahead.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, Chris, that's fun.
Anyway, my shout outs is I've actually got two now. I've just decided to choose another one just to piss everybody off now.
Great.
Right. So my
Hashtag
first one,
Team Tanner.
my first one is going to stick to the theme of the mothers, as it's Mothering Sunday, and it's going to go to Miss Robin Jacobson.
All right. Actually, that's Mrs., isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's Mrs. Robin Jacobson. Yeah, over on Instagram.
Okay.
But it's Robin Jacobson, which is Cole Jacobson's wife. So yeah, it's Mrs. Robinson Jacobson on Instagram, all one word is her handle, and you get to see kind of her own posts, which are funny, quirky, but you also get to see some behind the scenes stuff of Cole's on what he's working on and things like that as well, like on their road trip and such.
Awesome.
She's awesome.
So there's that one. The second shout out is also on Instagram. It's Jen from 7 Miles Designs. So that's the number 7 and then Mile Designs. Now I was in a hangout with her last night with a couple of other makers, and I have actually been following her for a little while. She did a collab with Jake Thompson, and so I decided to follow up and check up on her work again last night, and got a bit of a refresher course. And man, she does some awesome work, absolutely awesome work. So yeah, Jen from 7 Mile Designs.
Let's get her on then sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to get to know her because I'm not familiar, obviously, because she's on Instagram and I'm not. Richard, do you have any shout outs this week? I know you were kind of busy, so you may not.
Yeah, I have, and this is the kind of a last minute Larry and a shameless plug because I remember we said last week we'd do mummies because it was Mummy's Day. So well, very quickly off the top of my head, I'm going to do a shout out for Kat because Kat is a mum. She's obviously Mini Noodle's mum and is also Noodle Boy, who both of which came on parts of the road trip. She's on Instagram. She's got her own YouTube channel, although she basically never puts on YouTube at the moment. But if you're going to Maker Central, then you'll see her because she'll be on the Makers Make with Makers stand with us, and probably in the bar until early o'clock in the morning as well. So over to Instagram or on YouTube, Hippy Noodle, all one word. Links will be in down below. What more can I say?
She's the better half of you.
Definitely, yeah. And also, it kind of actually ties in with what we were talking about today because I've said it before and I'm happy to say it if anyone ever asks me. Kat being a maker helps me be a maker and I think a nicer person. And anyone that actually knows me.
Well, that's debatable.
Yeah, I mean, imagine what it'd be like without it. So, well, it could be a lot worse. But just having somebody who you can just dump on about things, that gets what you're doing, that gets why you're not in the room because you're thinking about something
right.
Not where it makes a huge difference. And coming from a place where that wasn't in place, I was thinking about making stuff and the people around me had no clue or understanding or even care. To go into an environment where you have somebody who understands that is a massive difference. So that just, to me, reinforces what Chris and Steve and Jamie has already said tonight, and that talking to people about stuff like this does help. So yeah, she's my right-hand person without doubt.
Hippy Noodle. Everybody go check her out. I don't have any moms. I mean, I could make up a vicious rumor. I could say my mom is Soph. Congratulations, Soph. If you didn't know it, you're going to be a mom. But I won't do that. Sorry, Sophie.
I tell you what, if you're going to shout out Soph, then Soph's mum is awesome. I've met Soph's mum, and she is absolutely awesome. So you could shout out Soph's mum, who hasn't got a YouTube channel, and then but her daughter has, so you could shout out Soph that way.
There you go. All right, yeah, because I didn't want to start a rumor.
But then again, we could force her mum into making a channel.
There you go. Soph's mum. I don't even know if she has one, but anyway, I do have two shout outs real quickly.
She is a maker because she's produced 2 daughters.
I'm not going to argue with that. Trust me.
She's making mum.
That's more than I could ever make. Trust me on this one. I do have 2 shout outs, 2 of them, and I have a complaint to the mind reader who is obviously controlling things out there in YouTube land. Because you see, one of the projects I was going to do, I had on my to-do list was I was going to make a portable outdoor bar. I don't know if you guys remember, about a year or so ago, I made an outdoor barbecue cart. And I made it out of basically 2x4 pine. And I stained it and, made it look nice, and it came out well. And I was going to make an outdoor bar.
Awesome. Not just well.
I was going to make an outdoor bar to go along with it. Same color scheme, things of that nature, just kind of for an outdoor party setup so that, and I thought that an outdoor bar would be good. Well, this week alone, 2 people have put out patio bars on YouTube. So just for no other reason than beating me to the punch, they get my shout out. And that is Stone & Sons Workshop and also Billy McCord. Congratulations, guys. You're a lot quicker on pulling the trigger than I was this year. So, and they're both good videos too. So you have a chance to check them out. The patio bars, Stones & Sons, and also Billy McCord. Go give them a look. So they get my shout out, and I hate you both because you beat me to it.
Awesome. And I think we should all just say a very happy Mother's Day to every single mum out there. You are all awesome and doing fantastic jobs. And without you, none of us would exist.
That's true.
Very true.
So some of them have a lot to answer for.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially mine.
Yeah. Awesome.
Jamie, do you need to talk? Big hug.
I think it's one of those topics that we can't really sort of wrap up, but I think in terms of time, as far as your listening capacity goes, you're no doubt bored with us by now. So I think that pretty much wraps up the show tonight. If you are still listening, thank you very much. If you're not, we'll say what we like about you. But in the meantime, y'all have a great week, and we will see you back here live next week if you're listening live. And if you're not, there'll be a recorded show released at some point. So, yeah. Till then, take care.
Have a great week, everybody.
See you later.
Smile and say hello.